Hello, Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator Podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and today we are talking about the Valley Persian Style, Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2. So happy Monday, everyone. Yes, this is the second episode that you're getting from me today. So earlier today, I hope you were able to catch the reality roundup episode with my friend Amanda, Bella Talks TV. I had such a good time talking with her, honestly, to the point where I'm like, should I do a podcast with her? Like, I just had so much fun. I feel like even when we disagreed, we still were like very respectful of each other's opinions and we're listening and responding to it. I don't know. I just had like such a ball talking to her, quite frankly. But we have such a fun week of guests as well. So tomorrow is our typical TLC Tuesday where we're talking about 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. And we are having Mary Payne from the Pink Shade podcast. So I'm really excited about that. She is sort of like an A1 day one 90 day person. So her takes are so hilarious. I love her imitations, her voices, all of that. I listen to her pod all the time. So I'm really jazzed about that. And then on Wednesday, we have Patreon for the Patreon babies. We're doing Vanderpump Rules from the beginning. I think we are on season 1, episode 6, if I'm not mistaken, right there in the crux of the Laura Lee era. That's awesome. And then Thursday, we're going to be talking about part 1 of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion, as well as Southern Charm with Gibbs and John. So that's going to be so much fun. And then on Friday, we're going to be talking about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and that week's episode, or this week's episode of the Valley Persian Style. So today we're talking about last week's episodes. Typically, you will get these on Friday. Just last week was so chaotic with some other things I was doing with Ryan Bailey, and I just didn't have time. And then the weekend was just, honestly, I've just been feeling a little hard on myself the past couple of days. So I was just like, I'm not in the mindset to do this. And like, you guys know, like sometimes I'll try to like push through. Sorry, little tickle. And sometimes I'm just like, I just don't have like the mental energy for this right now. But I have watched it like 4,000 times. I'm not joking. And I have so many opinions. It's crazy. And I'm really, really excited about this show, you guys. So I hope that those of you that are listening to this today, I hope you've watched it. And if you haven't, sure, listen to this episode, but then go back and watch because I am just so excited. Let me tell you why. Okay. First of all, this is obviously sort of like a spin-off or a continuation of Shaws of Sunset, which was a show that was on Bravo previously. I think they had 9 seasons, which I have never seen. So I do know our main players, MJ, Gigi, and Reza. Like I've seen them around like other Bravo things. They've been involved in like other Bravo drama. So I had like a general sense of who they are. And then the rest are like other couples that they're friends with. So very reminiscent of the other Valley, right? So they're Persian, which is what makes this, Persian style. And I guess it's also supposed to be like a spinoff of The Valley because they all live in the Valley, but it's the Valley Persian style. I still wouldn't consider that a spinoff without having any characters that are like connected in any way. And I don't think we're getting any of like the OG Valley characters on this show. But what I think is just so interesting about it is like, so yeah, it's a mixture of the Valley in the sense that that's where they live and they're around like 40 and they have like small kids or they're trying to have kids. Some are like still closer to 40 and still in the dating stage. Some are like have young kids and are thinking about getting divorced, right? So it's still sort of the same stages of life that we saw in the OG, The Valley. And then they obviously have like the Persian twist. But what I also like about it is the wealth, because we don't really have that in the OG, The Valley, right? Like Jackson, Brittany, and Kristen and Luke, they're not rich. They don't have that opulence. But these people do, or they pretend that they do, and they talk about it a lot. Like they talk about money a lot, which I actually really appreciate. And I'll talk about this later, how Reza sort of explains for the audience what is appropriate in Persian culture, almost so we don't have to bother questioning it, right? Like he'll say that it's very normal in Persian culture to talk to each other about finances and give advice and get really involved. And I think it's important that he says that because otherwise I feel like us as podcasters who aren't Persian or who don't know this are just going to end up like analyzing those aspects of like those scenes that we're watching when really if it's a cultural thing, it's sort of just like, it is what it is. I sort of feel like, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City was to have like that cultural aspect, that religious aspect, and I really feel like it's given it this extra oomph that we don't have in our other housewives shows. So yeah, this is really interesting because they have wealth or want wealth or pretend to have wealth. So that's what's different from the OG Valley, but they're still like the same age and the same like stages of life, but with the Persian twist. So yeah, it has all of those aspects. I really, really enjoy it. I just don't know why I'm able to get into these characters so easily because there are so many, you guys. There's like a bajillion couples. I haven't counted them all. Let me see here. We've got one single guy, and then we've got one, two, three, four, five couples, and then Gigi. So two single people and five couples. So that's a lot. Like five couples is a lot. And to get to know them all would take time. And I feel like this is something we've been saying about the new Vanderpump Rules, where we're just like, oh, we're not invested in the characters. And, they're sort of doing character development too fast. Like I was telling Ryan Bailey that I'm just like, give me a little bit of lube first, like before they start telling me about all of their lives. Like I need more time. But here we have two episodes where I've never seen these characters before. Like I said, I've never seen Shaw's. And I was so able to get easily invested to the point where I teared up at some of their stories. So I don't know why. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know if it's more relatable in a way, even though I'm not married and I don't have kids, but we're the same age. So maybe there's that kind of aspect. Also, just the very real openness that they have, which we'll get into. But I mean, that being said, Shane Davis and Natalie have talked to us on the new Vanderpump Rules about like, crazy medical things that have happened to them. So I don't know what it is about this show, but I am so incredibly invested already. And like I said, I've already watched it a bunch of times because one, it just took so long to remember all the different characters. But two, I just wanted to be able to really analyze everything that's going on because it's just so fresh and so new to me. So we're going to kind of go couple by couple and just talk about what we know about them. I think that's sort of the best way to go about it, as opposed to like recapping episode 1 and episode 2. I'm going to just talk about like all of the couples or the single people, all of the characters, basically what we know about them and what we like gather about them from these 2 episodes. And then just a smattering of recapping some of the like major events that happened during these episodes that are going to be relevant for us to chat about. Okay, let's start with Tommy and MJ. So MJ has been on or was on Shaw's forever. She's like an A1 day one. And back then she was single at the very beginning. So in all fairness, I have started watching like effective today. I finished season 1 today. So I have a little bit of a sense. The gauge that I get from her as a person is she's very, almost like very demure and very mindful. Like she's very soft-spoken and quiet. And I think that's because her husband, Tommy, dominates every room that he's in. And so does her mother. And so maybe she just feels like she's always in someone's shadow because everyone around her is so loud and big. So she's married to Tommy. They have a 6-year-old Shams. And MJ actually used to work for Mauricio at the agency. So I love just, always keeping it in the Bravo family. They've been married for 7 years. And, she's really into plastic surgery and stuff. She just got a neck lift and a breast reduction. So pop off, queen. Their New Year's resolution as a couple is 17 date nights in 2025. So they've really been struggling to prioritize their relationship with having a kid. And it's just so easy to fall asleep on the couch and just eat, which like, tell me about it, even though I don't have a husband or a kid, but I get it. So Tommy, this is an interesting person. He is a loudmouth. He really reminds me of like Michael Rappaport, quite frankly, from like The Traitors, right? He makes fun of her. He calls her a dumbass. He comments on like her rogue facial hairs and calls her a werewolf. He says that her nipples can cut ice. We see this scene of them like going out for dinner for like date night, and he asks the waiter if they can get a discount if MJ takes her top off. So like, what is this guy? Like, I'm very curious now that I'm going back and watching from the beginning how other people felt about him, because they got engaged a long time ago. Like they've been married 7 years. Like, what did people think about him then? And they flash back to some scenes and stuff. But yeah, I'm very curious because it's not even just like this is his personality. It's extremely rude. Like it really is. And it's unkind and it's constantly like putting her down as well, right? There's only so much a person can take. And we hear her mother, MJ's mother, Vida, talk about this to MJ, where MJ's like, I don't like that he's doing this because now our son is mimicking that. He's teasing. He's thinking that that's appropriate. And Vita's like, well, you can't teach an old monkey new tricks. She means dog, but she really thinks she means monkey. And like, I agree, right? Tommy is who he is, but it's also like, who would want to be with someone like that, right? Like, it's just very aggressive and very mean. And I understand it's his way of showing love, but I can't picture a woman out there that would want to be loved that way. Then again, maybe there's someone for everyone, but it's not MJ, right? It's not MJ. She cannot take it. Her self-esteem is just not there. And again, having only watched like a very little bit now, starting at the beginning of Shaw's, her mother, Vida, is so incredibly condescending to her and tells her that first tells her that she shouldn't ever get married, even though back at that time MJ wasn't interested, but is commenting on her body and, it just really treating her like a piece of shit. And so then to be married to someone that is like really compounding that, but like saying that there's love on top of it, it's almost like fucking it's this thing that my ex used to do, quite frankly. He used to make fun of me as well. And then when I'd get upset about it, he'd be like, you can't take a joke, right? So he'd blame it on me and make it like it was my fault. So I'd sort of have to like work on it myself to get over the fact that that's what he was doing and that it was hurting me because it's my fault that it's hurting me because I should be able to take a joke. And that's probably what MJ is doing because she knows that he's doing it as a joke, but regardless, it hurts her. So she's just trying to deal with it on the back end, right? And it's horrible. And at the end, we get this scene of Vida and Tommy going to coffee together. And she tells him that MJ isn't happy and she doesn't feel safe in the marriage and really just wants like more quality time together. And he just like will not listen. He won't have it. He keeps saying like, I'm good. My marriage is good. I'm not going to change. And it's like, okay, well, there's give and take in a relationship as well, right? He's just so stubborn and so bullheaded. He actually like tells the camera, he gets like really emotional. He's like, you don't understand. Like, I grew up differently. I grew up in Queens around gangsters. My mom died when I was 13. I slept on park benches. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But like, it doesn't give you the right to treat people badly and pretend that it's a joke. And he says, like, I don't cheat. I'm a good guy. I don't know why MJ is so critical. And that's the reason why I think she's still with him, even though in real life we know that they've gotten a divorce by now. But, they've been together a long time at this point. And in the show, I think that a big part of that is, well, obviously, one, their child. But two, she's like thinking, yeah, he's not cheating on me, right? And, he's generally a good guy. So it's hard for me to, am I going to really find someone better? And it's hard to sort of reconcile that in your head. But like, there's only so much beating down a person can take. And this woman's self-esteem, my God, like it must be shot to hell between Tommy and her mom. Like I feel really, really sad for her. And I see so much of like my relationship with my mom and her as well. We're just like, the constant like beating down on your body and how you look and like just like things about you. Like, I think it's great that she's been able to have a relationship with her mom and maintain that and stuff. And it doesn't seem that like Vida is the same way. Like, it doesn't seem like she's as bad anymore. Like, I mean, there's this one part where Tommy and MJ are getting ready to go on a date night and Vita's there and she's like, oh, you look amazing. Your tummy is flat. You look great. And it's a nice thing to say, right? But like, I'm kind of worried that if her stomach hadn't have looked flat, like Vida would have said something different. Like, I don't really know, right? So I I just feel for her. So I'm happy that she's actually gotten a divorce because I just don't understand this guy. And those of you who are like old school Shaw's fans, please DM me about this or message me. Actually, you guys, I keep forgetting about all the new things that I'm doing. So just let me mention that super quick. So obviously you guys know TikTok, Instagram, Threads at the Bravo Investigator, right? You know that you can watch all my videos on my YouTube channel, which I've linked in the show notes. But I also have a Facebook group now, and I think it'll be really fun for people to join. And we could just be having conversations about the shows, right? All in one place. Like, it's cool to be talking to you guys like little piecemeal here and there or like under posts and stuff like that, like on Instagram. But wouldn't it be fun to just be talking about these shows all in one place? Or like a certain news story comes up, right? We can all like give our 2 cents like right there. So I think that would be really fun. I've also linked that in the show notes. So the Bravo Investigator Facebook group, go join over there. I'm going to try to make it a bigger thing. I think it's going to be really, really fun. And then also don't forget about the Patreon. You guys, there's also patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator podcast. Okay, back into it. Okay, let's move on to Gigi Golnessa. So she has a 5-year-old son, Elijah, now. She has been divorced twice since we've last seen her, and she loves being single. So pop off, queen. Love that for you. Now she's being kicked out of her house because her landlord wants to move back in, and Reza is helping her look. But apparently Gigi has never had a job, so she's bad with money. She spends $3,000 to $4,000 a month on weed, and her dad basically like bankrolls her life. So she's just really struggling here because she knows she needs to hustle because her dad is getting older and he needs to save his money. But this is like apparently the way she's always been. Now that I'm like watching back from the beginning, like her parents have always taken care of her. And yeah, that is a lot of money on weed, right? I want to try to be supportive of the thing that like makes her feel good. Like, does anyone spend $3,000 to $4,000 a month on like Pilates? Maybe is it maybe synonymous with like, I don't know, do you spend that much on chocolate? Maybe. I don't know, right? Like I want to try to be supportive, but yeah, she probably does have to cut back. She's also kind of a loudmouth herself too. She kind of just speaks her mind, and when she's upset, everybody knows it. And she's very cunning with her words. And then she's also kind of someone who will talk a little bit sexually too, right? So when she's talking about needing money, she's talking to the other girls and she's like, you know, I can't suck a dick because I'm more of a starfish. So she'll make these little sexual jokes. I don't know if that's her yet, just because I don't know her well enough yet. I don't know if that's like something she's trying to put on for TV. But it's something that's there. So I'm just trying to get to know the characters. Okay, and then let's get into some of our other couples. We have Reza and Adam, and obviously Reza is one of our like mainstay characters. Reza is a real estate agent, and Adam is an assistant editor, and they've been married for 10 years. They talk about making the decision not to have kids, and they feel good about it. Reza's like, I'm like 51 now. It would be crazy. And they seem like really extremely happy. And it's funny because I'm just finishing either season 1 or starting season 2. And it's right where Reza is dating Adam. But he's saying in the episode that I'm watching, I want to date Adam. I want to keep dating Adam, but I also want to like have my fun. Can I do that? So I'm curious to see what happens there. I guess eventually he has to drop the other guys and be good with Adam, right? So it's interesting also to see like the mix of culture here too, because like Adam is white and Reza is Persian. And even just watching in the first season how Reza's dad is Jewish, I believe, and then had his mom convert, but then they broke up shortly thereafter and stuff because the dad cheated. So I do like hearing about all of the cultural aspects, but also like the, what do you call it? Like interracial marriages, or interfaith marriages. So then let's move on to Sky and Bamshad. So they are a new couple to us. I've never seen them before. They met at a restaurant that she was working at. She's 19 years younger. They have twins, and they have very different parenting styles, with Sky being more strict and Bamshad being more loosey-goosey. They've been married for 17 years, and she actually never wanted to get married, but because he was older, she thought that he was very mature, and she thought that that was great and a good idea. So they both have very strong personalities, which can clash. We haven't seen too much of that yet, but I really appreciate how open they are about their relationship, because we get really deep into it already with them sleeping in different rooms. We find that out pretty early on. So she sleeps in a different room. She says because Bamshad snores, and she hasn't fully clarified whether there's anything else there to that. Now, Bamshad does not like that, and he actually calls her out on it. He's like, I want to talk to you about this. I don't like that we're sleeping in separate rooms. I want you back. And again, that's just like so open and raw and real to give us right away on this show, right? You guys have never been on TV, and he just poured his heart out like that, right? I mean, he doesn't do it. He does it in sort of like a jokey way where he's like, oh, I want you back, you know, because he doesn't want to like, you know, not seem like a man, I guess. But I really appreciate that they decided to have that conversation on camera. Now, she's actually told the kids that she's sleeping in another room because daddy snores. But she does tell the camera that she doesn't want the kids to think that this is marriage or this is the way that marriage is. So she says that she'll come back once he fixes the snoring, a la like ENT doctor or something like that. And she tells the camera that she saw her parents fight all the time and she doesn't want to repeat the same mistakes. So what we get from Sky is that she's still a lot more reserved than maybe some of the other characters that could just be becoming comfortable with the cameras for the first time. We saw Michelle sort of be the same way with the Valley. But again, they're giving quite a lot, and I'm very impressed with that. But that being said, I want to know more about what her issues with Bamshed are, because is it just the snoring, or is there something else going on? Like they've been married a long time, but they also give like young and hot, right? So it's kind of crazy to me because a ongoing theme throughout a lot of these couples is that they're not sleeping in the same room. And maybe I'll just kind of get to that because we're talking about it. Reza says to some of them at a dinner party, like, it's really important to get back in the same room because that's when your marriage will just break down. And it is very true. Like, here's the crazy thing. I could never sleep in the same room with somebody else just because I have the worst sleep. If somebody moves or breathes near me, I will wake up. I'm the lightest sleeper. Like, sleep is the biggest struggle for me. And if I were to ever get married, which I never will, but if I were to ever get married, if I had to for some reason, I would have to sleep in a separate room from someone. But I'm very cognizant of the fact, and I think most people are, that it is important to sleep in the same room. And it's not for like physically sleeping together. It's really for like those conversations that you have before bed, or even just like, what's that saying that it's like, don't go to bed angry, right? So that opportunity to be able to make up or to just have those little chats or even just have little bits of intimacy, even if not major, even if just kind of holding each other a little bit, right? That adds so much to your relationship that you're not getting if you're not sleeping in the same room. But it's the idea. I just wonder if God intended it because it's so crazy if you think about it. So many people have different kinds of sleeping issues, sleep apnea, or like people who need to sleep with a fan, people who need to sleep with a little light on. People have such specific requirements when it comes to sleep. Or there's like people who snore, like people who sleepwalk, right? It's just, is it really what's meant to be for people to sleep in the same room together when they're married? Just because I feel like someone always suffers. It's funny though, because when we get a date night scene of MJ and Tommy that I was mentioning earlier, he says, I actually can't sleep without you next to me. And I have heard some people say that, but not many. Like, not many. I'm also really curious what you guys think about that. I think I might write that in a Facebook group chat because I really am curious what people think about like sleeping in the same bed with your spouse. Can you do it forever? Is it something that drives you absolutely insane? I mean, I'm just really curious your thoughts. When my family used to go on vacation when I was younger, my mom snored so bad and we would all be sleeping in the same room that we would make her put on like those nose strips that help you stop snoring, but she would still snore. And then we'd put her in the closet. Basically, if there was a closet with a door, that's where she would sleep so that the rest of us could have some sleep because she snored so incredibly badly. Okay, our next couple is Natasha and Amir. They have 3 kids under 5, and their big thing is that she wants her body back, but is fully done with kids. They do have a good sex life, though, but, done with kids. Regardless, people keep asking her, which is kind of crazy. Now, Amir has this wild story about his first wife, which quite frankly made me really tear up. And because I watched this so many times, I was just sort of like getting more and more emotional every time that I watched it. So he had this first wife. They got married when they were younger, and she had cancer. She passed away when she was really young, though. And it's still really hard for him to talk about. You see this scene of him talking to the guys about it, and he's still getting very emotional. They had actually been doing IVF at the time that they diagnosed her with cancer. He says the finality of it was just so overwhelming, and her passing changed him a lot. Basically, he has a lot of anxiety about illness now, so they go to the doctor a lot, but it provides him like a peace of mind for him that he just really needs. He met Natasha a couple years later, and his wife who died had told him, like, I want you to go on, I want you to be happy, I want you to find someone. And he considers Natasha a blessing for that, right? But like, what an insanely tragic story, and how crazy that you guys get married young, you're so happy, you decide, hey, let's have a baby, let's go through IVF, and then you find out that she has cancer. And she ends up dying like Their birthdays were really close together within a few days of each other, and she ends up dying like right before the birthdays. It's absolutely heartbreaking to hear this story, but also so uplifting to know that he was then able to find someone else, have another family, three kids, right? And it's unbelievable. It's such a crazy story. Okay, let's get into our next couple, which is Tannen and Greg. And now, guys, Greg to me looks like Peter from Sir, like Peter from Vanderpump Rules. And like most people are telling me that I'm crazy, but some people are telling me that they see it. Okay. So I want you guys to tell me if you can see it. Okay. Maybe I'll also write this in the Facebook group. Don't tell me I'm crazy. I swear he looks like Peter. And it's not just the ponytail. Maybe it's the fact that he also used to be a fuck boy. I don't know what it is, but I cannot unsee it. Like it's driving me nuts. But Greg is Armenian and Tannen is Persian. She actually describes him as her adopted child. And they've been together for 10 years, married for 6. So, like I said, he used to be a player and they started off rocky. So they are also in that stage where she's having her own room and she has had it for a really long time. And she says it's because she can sleep better, but you can tell that there's more here going on in their relationship. She talks about how they tried to have a baby for a really long time with IVF, but she's also the COO of a company, which takes up a lot of her time. She also gives off sort of a stoic personality as well. And again, I don't know if that's the cameras or her personality. I guess we'll see. But I want to know more about whether she is actually bothered by the fact that she's struggled to have children, because the way she plays it off on screen is like, oh, it's fine. I'm just like really, really busy with work. But again, her facial expressions just don't really give off like, it just gives off stoicness. So it's really hard to tell whether she does have any emotion about it. She talks about how they have very different personalities, how she's resolution oriented and he's just sort of like, let's see what happens. And that could be really complicated, right? That can be really difficult. Now, it's interesting because sometimes it's good to have a relationship where you have people with two different personalities. Like for me, I feel like, again, if I were to be in a relationship, which I don't want to be, I feel like I would go well with someone who has like a really calming nature because I'm so high anxiety. I think that they would do a good job with bringing me down. But I feel like if I were really resolution oriented and the other person wasn't, I feel like that just wouldn't jive with my life, right? So I feel like that could be a really big struggle that they could have. Now, they also have a crazy backstory about something that happened early on in their relationship. So, as I mentioned early on, he was a player and, their relationship was sort of on and off. She wasn't really taking him seriously. And one New Year's, they were in Dubai and they were like going somewhere in two separate cars. And she was in a car with all of these girls, and the car just like flipped. She had this horrific car accident. So they all get out, and Greg, he's thinking that he lost the love of his life because at that point they were just dating. But in that moment, he realized, oh my God, this is the love of my life. And he starts screaming to his friends, like, I think I'm losing the love of my life. He starts slapping her face to try to get her to wake up. And she wakes up. And, like, she's very lucky to be alive. He realizes now that this was the person that he was meant to be with. Now, the surgery that she had, only a few people come out of it without having to learn to walk and talk again. So she's so, so lucky. And she even says that it's the accident that really brought them together. Because if they hadn't have been through something so tragic together, she wouldn't have taken him seriously. He was a playboy and he was doing the playboy thing still, right? It was sometimes you have to have those insane moments to realize how short life can be and what you can really lose if you don't take something seriously. So I think that's just such a crazy story. And we see this scene of them talking about her going out with her friends and how he doesn't like that. So I didn't really like this because it's controlling, right? Like, I don't love that. Despite this, I mean, she does hang out with Sky a lot. Apparently, they're like such besties. They go on trips, they do everything together. The thing is, though, when a guy says that, he's more concerned that like guys are like going to come up to you and stuff. But it's like, I think that when guys say that, it's because that's something that they would do, which is what he basically does, right? They're having this interesting argument where he's like, I don't want you going out because I don't want like people talking to you. And, I don't put myself in those situations. But then apparently there was a time where like he was going out and like someone came up to him and asked for directions or something. So he gave the girl his number. Like, I don't understand that part. He talks about it so incredibly casually, where it's like, oh, yeah, I just like randomly gave her my number. I wasn't attracted to her or anything. I was just, she was looking for directions. So, and then she texts me at 2 a.m. and she's like, hey, baby, what are you doing? And then he's like, oh, what was the first thing I do? I show it to my wife. And so she appreciates that, like, he's doing that, but at the same time, he is putting himself in that situation. And to me, it is a double standard. Like, it's completely a double standard. And she talks about how she's sort of come to a place where she's just gotten comfortable not communicating because you can tell they are just not speaking the same language. It's very obvious here. Like, how doesn't he see that this is a double standard? And how is she not seeing what he needs as well? So she feels like they're just talking about the same shit all the time. It's the same thing over and over again. And then we see Greg really sadly say, how did we get here? And this moment was really, really powerful. And again, really raw and open and real that they were able to give us this on camera. And Tannen says we need to figure out what we each need to feel important and to prioritize those things. And, again, we're just getting to know them, so it's hard to really say. But I think the fact that they've been together for a really long time, the fact that they both work very, very hard and aren't sleeping in the same room are probably contributing. He does end up saying something weird and fucked up later that I'm just going to mention now because it's maybe relevant. He goes on this like boys' day with some of the other guys, and he says that, when it comes to having a spark for your wife, after a while, it can sort of be like having sex with your sister because it's like family at this point. And, I've heard lots of people say that. And the other guys are like, nobody says that. And like, yeah, nobody says that. Now, Tannen is insanely gorgeous. I hope he does not look at her like his sister. That is an insanely weird thing to say. I understand if he's saying like familiarity or something, but it's not the same. Like, it's not the same. It's I think that's something that he needs to sort of look into or reconcile, because if it's something that he's even entertaining in his brain, then maybe a big part of this is their sex life. So we've got him thinking about her like a sister. We've got them not sleeping in the same room. We've got them having very different personalities. We have the baby thing too. So I think all of these things combined, and they're just sort of different lifestyles about like what their expectations are for each other. So all of these things combined are really putting them at a crossroads in their relationship when it comes to communication. And that's why I think Greg is saying, like, how did we get here? How did we get so far apart? And I think that happens in marriages all the time. You just like slowly, slowly, slowly start to move apart to the point where you're just like, oh my God, how did we get here? It's crazy. So I'm very curious to see how this couple progresses as we continue to watch this show. Okay, then we have Reza Jackson. So he is our single guy. He's 35 and he just looks like a player. Like, he really does. He's like a Persian Justin Timberlake because he's got like this curly mop of hair on top of his head. Now, he feels a lot of pressure from his parents to settle down and have kids because he's an only child. He talks about how he got bullied in school and had braces. And then he lost the baby fat on his face. He grew out his hair and girls just started being into him. So he's sort of, like the player of the group, the single guy. Amir and Natasha do end up introducing him to their neighbor Sophia during one of these episodes. And she's like super hot, by the way, like, holy shit. So they go on a date and she starts questioning him on like his fuckboy status. And he's like, whoa, like, isn't this kind of like soon for this? And she's like, why? Like, let's get to the point. And I love that about her. Because again, I think what a major thing that we notice in the Persian culture is like the importance of marriage. And so this girl is like, I was set up with you to possibly get married. So I want to know whether you are over being a fuckboy, yes or no. So he's done with her pretty quickly. Okay, now I just want to talk about like a few random things that happened. Okay, so Gigi throws her son Eli a birthday party. Now, Gigi had this ring where a couple of the diamonds had fallen out. So she asked Sky, who is a jeweler, to fix it. And apparently it's been like a year and she still hasn't given it back. And apparently she asks her like month after month after month and she never gets it back. So she's hoping that Sky brings it to the party, which she doesn't, and then she has to have somebody go get it. So when she does bring it to the party, though, Gigi is not satisfied. She's like, oh, it just looks like gold paint or something. I don't think she replaced it with diamonds. Like, this looks like garbage. So there might be something there. But Sky says, like, I'm a jeweler. I don't like fix jewelry. That's not what I do. I don't do repairs. My time is much more expensive than the ring. Okay, fair enough. But then why did you agree to do it? Right? I assume you agreed to do it because you are in possession of the ring. You could have said, oh, I don't do repairs. So I know this person, though, that does. And why don't you go right to them? They'll give you a discount, something, something, something. Why did you take the ring and do it? Once you've taken the ring in your possession, you are now the repair person. Am I wrong? So I don't really agree with Sky there, but I don't think that she put fake diamonds in it or like gold dust in it either. That's ridiculous. Another thing that we have going on throughout these series of episodes is that Tommy is not going to be a part of any of the group events. So he drives MJ and Shams to Ellie's party, but he doesn't want to come because he hates Reza. And I'm still getting to this part in obviously the show, but I guess when MJ was giving birth to Shams, she went through something during her childbirth. I'm not quite sure what it was. She was in the hospital for a while, I guess. They were flashing to scenes of her like with tubes all around her. So I don't quite know what happened. I should probably just Google it. But apparently Reza and Adam and Gigi were not there. And this drove Tommy absolutely fucking insane. And he has not spoken to them since. So I guess we'll see what happens there. MJ is sort of worried about being like this person on the show where people are constantly like, where's your husband? Where's your husband? And like, yeah, we've seen that before, right? And it's going to be unfair to MJ to sort of have to defend herself all the time or defend her relationship when he's not there to defend it himself too, because it's also not her personality. Like I said, she's very, very shy and very quiet and very demure. So that's going to suck for her. But Tommy has a hugely strong personality, and if he's not going to come to something, he's not going to come to something. I just wonder what that's going to mean for the longevity of the show. It's not like he's not filming. He is filming. Actually, it doesn't mean anything for the longevity of the show now that I say that, because they're getting a divorce. I do think he may still be on the show because obviously we're going to watch them co-parent. Or maybe we won't because we're not seeing Jax Taylor on the other Valley anymore. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that progresses through the season and if Reza and MJ, or sorry, if Reza and Tommy ever reconciles this situation. So I guess another thing is that it's very Middle Eastern to talk about money and finances. So Reza had to have a sit down with Gigi to talk about not being able to rent a place because her credit is so bad. And basically it happens again when they all get together for a party, and MJ tells Gigi that they were just talking about her money issues. So it's kind of weird because like everyone's just standing around. MJ brings it up. No one really has anything to say yet because as soon as MJ brings it up, Gigi walks in the house. So MJ then immediately turns around and tells Gigi, hey, we were just talking about you. But that's not exactly what happened because, quite frankly, MJ started the conversation and the conversation didn't really progress anywhere. So Gigi gets upset. She ends up leaving. And Reza thinks MJ is so annoying for doing this. But MJ said that she did this because she didn't want to be two-faced. Now, I think what happened here is almost like MJ premature ejaculated into reality TV. Okay, let me explain. It's been a while, right? She's been out of the game for a little bit, except for the traders. So I think she was like, okay, the rules of reality TV are you always got to be honest and you always got to tell people what other people are saying about them. You always have to like say it. You always just may have to make sure that you say everything that's being said to the person. But it wasn't necessary in this case, like I said, because the conversation hadn't progressed. Also, Gigi had just walked into the room. So it's kind of jarring when you just walk into a party and somebody like physically approaches you like so hard and they're like, everybody's talking about you, right? Like it almost makes you get defensive and get your back up. And Gigi, of all people, now that we're getting to know her, or I am, is not the kind of person you want to get riled up because she can get like really hot really, really fast. So yeah, MJ, you didn't need to do that. I think you need to just like back off a little bit. But it's funny how well they know each other because Gigi's like, MJ, who started the conversation? And MJ's like, oh, I don't quite remember. And then Gigi's like, yes, you do. You remember everything. So she's like so quick on it. And then we find out that Gigi has started an OnlyFans to try to make money, but she talks about this situation like very nonchalantly, like she's truly not worried. So I don't know if this is because she knows at the end of the day, like her dad is going to be able to help, or because she knows she's being filmed right now for this show. So there will be that amount of money and she's really, really hopeful about how successful it will be. I don't know, but it is odd to see an adult take being kicked out of their home so lightly, right? It really is. Like, look at me being unemployed, freaking the fuck out, worried that I'm going to be homeless. And I don't know if she's the kind of person that just likes to push situations out of her head because it's just easier not to think about it, or because things have always just worked out for her and she feels like this just will too. And I feel like it's probably the latter. Um, okay, and then there's this guy's get together where they're talking about how to keep a spark in the relationship. So this is where they're talking about like having sex with your sister, but this is also they talk about like going to the bathroom in front of your partner and how they don't do that. And again, I don't know if this is a cultural thing because it's really interesting to see a bunch of men say, "Oh, I would never go to the bathroom in front of my wife." I feel like men are usually typically more inclined to want to go to the bathroom in front of their wives than women are, right? As women, we want to keep an air of mystery, right? I feel like men are just like, yeah, you've seen it, whatever. Very Jax Taylor with the bathroom door open, all of that, right? Very Al Bundy, as MJ sort of describes Tommy. So I think it's really interesting that these men are saying that, like, no, I would never do that. That is so gross. So I want to get like more about that. I wonder, and they're also all very like prim and proper, very well dressed, very well shaved, very just like I don't know. They're all like really good looking, really well put together. And I wonder if that's a part of it, right? I wonder if there's something where they're just like, we want to keep this certain look and we want to make sure to even do that amongst our spouses where we would never like show them the worst parts of ourselves, like our demasked parts of ourselves. I don't know. Is that a cultural thing too? That's what I'm so interested in finding out. And that's why I'm just so, so, so jazzed about this show. Okay, guys, I hope that you go ahead and watch the first 2 episodes. I'm so excited. And then I'll be back to discuss episode 3 on Friday with The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills as well. All right. Well, I love you, BBs, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BB. See you next time.